The Nittany Lions are back, but did they look any good? Let's stop stalling and start talking wrestling. What's going on, wrestling fans? My name's Josiah, and welcome to Wrestling Headlines right here on the Fanco Wrestling YouTube channel. And on this Wrestling Headlines segment, there is so much to talk about from the Wild ACC weekend with NC State. You see I got my Wolfpack hat on. Virginia and Pitt. I mean, what a wild upset that was. As well as talking about the Summit 1 Rockfin event. And then, yes, I will get into some of the big Big Ten news with the Penn State Nittany Lions returning to the mat finally. Oh my goodness, it's been too long. So let's first talk about the Summit 1 event that happened over the weekend on Rockfin. This was the first event put on by the Pennsylvania RTC, and it was a good event. You know, I'll be honest with you, I didn't watch the whole thing. It was way too long an event, in my opinion. It was like a 5-hour event, but they did have some high school matches beforehand, before the main event, which you did see a lot of exciting wrestling happening. So the other thing I will say about this is Rockfin needs to find a way to change their live events. There's a lot that I like about Rockfin. I like that they're putting on these events, but it's way too difficult for just a live video to pop up and people to see which events are happening live. Just something, in my opinion. So some of the big matches that happened here, Miles Martin was able to beat Dean. He beat Max Dean by a score of 4-2. And got some step outs and points off shot clock, and then ends up getting 2 off of exposure to win the match 4-2 when Dean got 2 with about 30 seconds left. McFadden teched Vincenzo Joseph by a score of 13-2. He hit a body lock kind of right off the bat, or a scramble to a takedown to a body lock right off the bat. It rolled through on that, was up 6-0. McFadden ended up getting another takedown and was up 9-2 at the break. Chenzo got a couple of step outs, and then end up finishing it, McFadden, after the break with a couple more takedowns. A crazy, I was not expecting McFadden to tech Vincenzo Joseph. And then the other former Nittany Lion in Mark Hall lost to Nate Jackson by a score of 4-3 in an exciting bout. Now, Jackson's been wrestling quite a bit over the last couple of months. He recently wrestled Win Mahalik. He wrestled Jaden Cox. Picked up a win against Mahalik, and he's kind of been going up and down in weight. Now, this match, he weighed in at 88 kilograms, which is about 194 pounds, and Mark Hall, I'll say, is looking pretty big. I mean, he wrestled 174 in college, is now up to 194. It was kind of interesting to see how big Mark Hall was, but Hall was able to score off of a step out, and I believe then also Nate Jackson got another step out at the break. It was 1-1. Then Mark Hall gets in on a shot and is so close to scoring, but ends up getting nothing. Shoots in on a double and ends up blasting out Nate Jackson 4-2 and almost got exposure. I mean, it was like a real good props to Jackson on not letting up his back for exposure points there. But then Jackson's able to get this step out and lifts up Hall for a takedown and ends up winning the match 4-3. It was an exciting bout and a really high quality production put on by the Pennsylvania RTC. It was an event that I did enjoy watching. It was a cool thing going on over the weekend. But now we have to get into what happened in college. And there was quite a bit that happened in college this weekend. I'll be honest, going into this weekend, I thought it was going to be kind of a down week. I wasn't sure what we were going to see over the weekend. But as college wrestling does, it excited. And the first big thing that happened over the weekend was Virginia upset number 12 Pitt. They beat them 17-16 in a duel. Now, you may be wondering, with this Wild ACC weekend, which I'll talk about these ACC matches that happened because they were insane. The ACC has just been pumping out some exciting matches over the past couple of years. So Virginia beat Pitt 17-16. Big upsets here were Brian Courtney beating number 16 Cole Matthews of Pitt. That was an upset at 141 pounds. The other upset that I want to talk about here is Batista beating Greg Harvey, beat him at 184. That was quite an upset there. And like looking at the matches, there wasn't a lot of craziness that happened. You may be like wondering like, whoa, what are the crazy upsets? I mean, those were 2 upsets, but it wasn't anything absurd. Like I wasn't totally out of my mind because of those couple of upsets. Like if Bonacorsi, which I'll get to his match, which was a great match, but like Philippi Wani defeated Louis Hayes, ends up getting 18 straight wins as Mickey Philippi. Jake Wenzel beat Jake Keating, ended up getting some back points there. Wenzel's just been looking very solid. And then Bonacorsi bounced back after he lost to Trumbull against NC State, ended up beating J.A.L.O. by a score of 7-5. Aiello's number 2 guy, and Bonacorsi will no doubt jump back up in the rankings after bumping down to like the number 15. But he was able to fire off like 3-4 different takedowns, or 3 different takedowns, and beat Aiello, the former ACC champ, and that just shows that Bonacorsi is right there in contention. Don't, as well as it shows that Trumbull of NC State is a real tough wrestler. Now, Pitt right now is lost to NC State and Virginia. Next up, they have UNC and Virginia Tech, so the road does not get any easier for them. And speaking about NC State and UNC, number 3 NC State defeated UNC 28-10 in a dual meet. Tariq and Zach Sherman had quite the match. Tariq ended up getting the victory 9-6. They split takedowns, and then with 30 seconds left, Tariq was able to drive Sherman out with the double leg, drive him out of bounds, or drive him for a takedown, end up winning that match 9-6. Kennedy Monday and Bullard. This was the match. This is one of the matches of the weekend, honestly. This was quite the event, and I'm going to explain, because there was a very controversial call that a lot of people didn't understand, and I'm honestly still trying to understand it. I'm going to give you from my perspective exactly what I saw, because it was real weird. So, first of all, these two were scrambling like crazy. 30 seconds in, and ends up Monday's getting able to score off a beautiful shot, but not until after a crazy scramble. And there were a couple of exciting scrambles in this match between Bullard and Kennedy Monday at 165 pounds, where Monday did end up getting the victory 4-2. So Bullard was riding out Monday, gets into another scramble position, and this is kind of where the weird, the strange stuff happens. So Bullard's riding out Monday in the third period, and what he ends up doing is kind of pulling Monday back on him. It's third period, there's about a minute left, pulls him back onto him, and then there's like a challenge for control. They get into like a scramble. Like Monday's trying to get out. Does he end up getting? Can he escape, or is Bullard actually get back points there, or was it like a choke call? Like there was like just so much happening here. So I went back, because after UNC threw the challenge brick and they were challenging, and I was wondering what they were challenging for, and it came back that there was an illegal hold off of a UNC's challenge, which at first I thought was a choke, but that came with about like 30 seconds left, and they actually had already thrown the challenge brick before that, so that wasn't it. And then I went back and watched it and said, well, maybe Bullard locked hands, but no, that wasn't the case. It looks like it may be an illegal cutback, which I've seen happen a couple times this season, more so than recently, but kind of when Bullard pulled Monday back on him, he left his feet, and you're not able to do that. That's an illegal move. And so the clock was reset, because that's exactly what happened at 56 seconds, which is where it was reset from 18 seconds. And with this time, Monday was able to regain some composure and ends up getting the escape and 2, wins the match 4-2. Kind of a crazy match. And the other things that happened during and please let me know what you thought of that, the call, the takedown, and everything that happened there, because that was kind of wild. Bullard got a win over Devin Kane. Trent Hiley beat Clay Lott, and Isaac Trumbull just continues to win. And then the Hokies. So I'll say I was wrong, okay? Like, I was wrong, because I thought that UNC would put up a better fight against the Hokies. They ended up beating them. The Hokies won. Virginia Tech won 23-9 in the dual meet, and they took it to them. I was wrong. I was wrong. I thought that UNC was a better team than Virginia Tech, but Virginia Tech showed up, and they proved me wrong. They proved a lot of the ACC wrong. And they'll have a tough one with NC State. But Austin O'Connor defeated Bryce Andonian, which was a good match. Dakota Howard upset Devin Kane of UNC. That was one of the matches that helped the Hokies to win. And then Monday again with a great match against, this time, Mekhi Lewis at 165 pounds. A tighter match than I would have anticipated. Monday, if he's not on your radar or hasn't been on your radar for the last year, get him on there, because Monday is on absolutely my All-American watch. Monday is he's just amazing. So, he didn't beat Mekhi. Mekhi ended up getting the victory 4-3, but Mekhi scored on the first takedown, ended up getting some riding time, and then ended up escaping the second. Monday in the third gets to escape. The score's 3-1. So Monday is in on a double and drives through on Mekhi, ends up getting the takedown on him. The score's tied now 3-3, but with Mekhi's escape, and then he's kind of able to stall off Monday. He's actually hit with a stalling call, And then he ends up winning the match 4-3. But that was quite the match. And if Monday is able to make some of these adjustments, I will definitely be looking for him on the stand this year. I mean, potentially even in the finals. We'll see. The other thing I do want to discuss is Okie State. This is the next wrestling headline. Okie State stays undefeated. Number 5, Okie State defeated number 16, Northern Iowa. Not a crazy upset, or not upset, but a crazy duel. I thought that would happen. It was 20-12 is what Okie State won. Brody Teske defeated Mastro Giovanni at 125 pounds. Reese Whitcraft kind of made his debut this year at 133 pounds. Wasn't expecting him to debut at 133, and soon we will hopefully be getting Dayton Fix back at 133, but Whitcraft has been wrestling in the extra matches and now actually made his real debut wrestling big time against UNI, although he unfortunately did have 2 losses on the weekend. Parker Keckeisen, redshirt freshman, defeated Dakota Gear. That was the upset of that match. And then Okie State also defeated Iowa State. So Okie State and Iowa State. Iowa State's been, like, what's going on with Iowa State? Because they've just been wrestling like these teams that, and I don't know if it's something where they're only allowed to wrestle certain teams or they're just wrestling D2 and D3 teams for whatever reason, but they have all these teams on their schedule. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I wanted to see some real competition from Iowa State, and we finally did, and they actually had a good match against Okie State. They lost 16-15. Okie State, number 5, ended up defeating number 13, Iowa State. Neither squad had a full lineup, but it made it for some close matches. Like David Carr, that wasn't necessarily a close match because he ended up getting the I guess it was 8-4 decision over Wyatt Sheets with a couple of takedowns. And it was really a back and forth duel that did come down to heavyweight, essentially. It was 16-12 coming down to heavyweight. And Gremmel was going to have to get some bonus points, but ultimately it was not against Austin Harris, who was just fighting for his life that time, and ended up getting the victory there, which was, it made for a good duel. You know, it really did make for a good duel, especially if you're a Big 12 fan. So, Big 10. Penn State made their return to the mat. Finally, after all of this time off, we finally see Penn State back. Number 24, Penn State, or excuse me, not number 24, number 2 or 3, depending on which ranking you're looking at, even 4, made their debut over Indiana, or debut this year, and with a victory over Indiana, 24-15, they defeated them. So it was actually kind of a closer match than anticipated. They really scraped by on a couple of these duels, and I think the reason for that was Penn State was off for a couple of weeks due to COVID-19 complications and all this stuff. I don't know how much they were able to train. They were basically on a little bit of a hiatus. No duels this season, and they started out with Indiana, and honestly, it was probably a good duel to start out with because they were obviously expected. When I expected them to win more than 24-15, but a couple of big things to notice here. So first, slow start against this team. They did pick it up against Northwestern, but no 125 for Penn State. Not really sure what's going on there. So they were giving up 6 each of those duels. RBY, Nick Lee, Aaron Brooks, Verclearen, Brady Berge. It was exciting to see him back. And Seth Nevels was at heavyweight. So no Kerkvliet for Penn State. Nick Lee actually made his start this season at 141. There were rumors that he was at 149, but he is at 141. And then, of course, the big one, Joe Lee made his debut for Penn State, and then Carter Starachi lost 10-9. Nobody was expecting this. Maybe DJ Washington was expecting this because he caught Starachi in a headlock in the first period, was up 6-0, ended up getting some nice back points there. And then ends up getting another takedown after Starachi escapes with more back points at the end of the first period and ends up getting up 10-1 at the end of the first. Nobody was expecting this except for maybe DJ Washington. Starachi ends up working back. He's on top in the second period. Ends up working back with a couple of turns. You got a nice tilt in there. Got a couple nice turns in. Ended up getting it back up the score 10-8. Ended up getting the escape in the third, but ultimately was not able to get to any takedown or any points on the board with all the time that he had there. Washington was just really defending Starachi. It was, as a Penn State fan, it was a shame to see him lose that, but he did bounce back in the second match. He ended up getting a win in the second match, gets his first win. I don't think it's anything you should be worried about, but if you are worried, I will actually have a video on Big Ten Tuesday coming up about Carter Starachi and whether you should be worried about him or not. But anyways, other things about Penn State. No Beard, no Michael Beard at 197, no Kerkvliet, so unfortunate there. But Penn State did defeat Northwestern 29-13, so they got kind of back to basics there. Bear Claw debuted at 149 pounds instead of Verk, who did start in the first duel. And then, oh my goodness, like Rome Brava Young, it's so fun to watch Rome Brava Young and Nick Lee and even Seth Neville's now, who impressed me this weekend. But just the bonus points that these guys are putting up are so darn exciting. And Rome Brava Young was just hitting like really quick spin behinds. He actually ended up getting the tech pin on Northwestern, which he pretty much teched the guy and then ended up getting the pin and at the end. Now, Penn State actually added Wisconsin onto their schedule Tuesday, February 2nd at 5 o'clock p.m., which was a last-minute addition to the schedule. The other big thing that happened in Big Ten over the weekend is that Indiana upset Northwestern. The same day that all of this was happening, the tri-meet, Indiana upset Northwestern. Their last win against them was in 2017. Now, Northwestern didn't have Deacon, but still a impressive victory nonetheless. And Iowa was back in action against Illinois. I don't think anybody expected Illinois necessarily to beat Iowa, but maybe they could have pulled off a couple of wins. Ultimately did not. Now, there was no Marinelli in this duel. Max Murin defeated Mikey Carr at 141. I thought this would be a closer... I thought that Mikey Carr could pull off an upset there, but ultimately didn't. And then the crazy match for Illinois that did happen was Bronigal was able to defeat Nelson Brands. Now, these two had quite the match. It was 1-1 going into sudden victory, and off of a challenge call, and when Nelson Brands almost had a takedown, ultimately, Zach Bronigal, number 8 in the country, got the win over number 9 Nelson Brands with a sudden victory takedown, and that's going to make for some exciting wrestling going into the Big Ten championships. There's no doubt about that. And in other Big Ten news, Nebraska stays undefeated at home this season with a win over Wisconsin. Taylor Venz is still, man, he's still looking for that first ranked win of the year. Unfortunately, he did lose this weekend. And then Christian Lance, sudden victory, win over Trent Hilger, which was a huge win for Christian Lance in Nebraska. And the last thing that I do want to mention about the Big Ten is, because there's been quite a lot happening in the Big Ten recently. Maryland and Rutgers still looking for their first win. Maryland 0-6, Rutgers 0-4. And Purdue defeated Rutgers this weekend, 18-15. Poznanski got a nice win over Max Lyon. And then Devin Schroeder beat Nick Aguilar, but not before both of those guys actually lost to Pat McKee. Pat McKee is on another level this year. You better be watching out for him, because although he may not have been competition for Spencer Lee, he's competition for the rest of these guys at 125 pounds. These were your wrestling headlines this week. Let me know what your favorite duel was over the weekend. I know mine. Actually, I don't know what mine was. Mine may have been the Penn State, Nebraska duel, or Northwestern, just because I was excited to see them back. But really, I was excited to see NC State, UNC. So much exciting wrestling, and I can't wait to see what happens in this upcoming week.